So thank you for the opportunity to speak and explain a bit more about what a CCP is doing, and especially EuroCCP being contracted to support this initiative. So my name is Treuren. I'm heading the product management team within EuroCCP. Formerly worked for a local Dutch bank and then for an international bank on the custody and clearing services before I joined EuroCCP, and there I became responsible for all new initiatives to connect clients, connect platforms, CSDs, markets, and develop positive optimization initiatives for clients. So the agenda for today is to explain what a central counterparty is doing, what EuroCCP has been doing in the past and how it was set up, as well as a bit more of the overview where EuroCCP sits at the moment within Europe, the outlook and the innovation initiatives we are working on. So the next slide is to explain a bit more the central counterparty. Trading members are connected and adopted by an exchange. They are adopted according to the trading rules of the exchange, and they become an admitted member. The exchange is regulated in order to be safe and sound for the community, and the exchange is appointing a CCP to connect and provide the post-trade services to the exchange. Clearing members are adopted. Clearing members need to fulfill the requirements of the clearing rulebook of EuroCCP. And then EuroCCP is only licensed after submitting an awful lot of documentation. So we are EMIR licensed at the moment. In order to get that EMIR license, we needed to submit at least 10,000 different pages of communication about the processes, procedures, the risk mitigation factors. So all of that is what we had to do in 2014 to become a licensed, an EMIR licensed CCP. So what a CCP is doing is creating stability and efficiency from a post-trade point of view. We are, as first line, we are acting as the buyer to the seller and the seller to the buyer. So the CCP is always flat, sitting in the middle, and mitigates the counterparty risk which people would bear in the bilateral world. So after novating those trades, which is a real-time process within EuroCCP, we are taking care of the settlement at the end of the day, and there's a T+2 settlement cycle, so 2 days later those movements will be really set in central securities depositories. So a CCP is taking care of anonymity. So clients will not be able to see with who they're trading. They will always be trading against a CCP, and in this case there's only one CCP, it's EuroCCP. So as I said, it's a highly regulated entity. Nowadays we are live in 19 markets in Europe. That means we have around 19 regulators. The company is around 60 people. We have a yearly event of the College of Regulators meeting EuroCCP, and as to show you how well we are regulated, there's 60 people in the company, but when we have that meeting, there's 45 regulators around the table talking about EuroCCP. But all in all, to create the right level of efficiency and stability for the market. So evolution of cash equity clearing. In the past, there were only national exchanges. So prior to 2007, when MiFID was introduced with best execution and creating competition with exchanges, there was national silos. So the German market, the German exchange had a German CCP and a German CSD, and all of that was owned by one entity, so they could drive the price, the cost price of clearing and settlement. So best execution led to a more European-wide change of pricing, led to competition. So in 2007, there was a demand to set up multiple exchanges, at the time called, or now still nowadays called, MTFs, multilateral trading firms, MTF. So we start from the bottom, EuroCCP, at the time EMCF, an initiative created by Fortis Bank. was requested by CHIEX to become the CCP. The local CCPs did not really have an interest to expand their ability to clear in other markets. But as at that time there was a demand to have a pan-European connectivity from a clearing and settlement point of view. So EuroCCP was requested, or EMCF was requested by Fortis to set up this entity. And I started with CHIEX on 5 Dutch ISIN codes and 5 German ISIN codes. And within a few months, due to the way the exchanges would work, the brokers would work, and EuroCCP's pricing, there was 30% of share moving away from the local exchanges in those ISIN codes being cleared by EuroCCP with EMCF. 2007, MiFID was introduced, Turquoise opened. Turquoise was created by a consortium of banks. There was another CCP being appointed there. That was a DTCC initiative. That was EuroCCP Limited. And between EuroCCP and EMCF, they tried to compete in pricing and clear those trades. So the way CHIEX at the time evolved, besides these 5 ISIN codes and the 2 markets, it ended up in going live in 16 different markets, where we cleared over 10 million trades in a particular day. So there was a historical record from one exchange. Maybe to explain, 10 million trades is nowadays the entire daily volume across all European exchanges and platforms. So in 2010, EMCF was requested by Nasdaq in the Scandinavian markets to support the post-trade process by getting connected to Nasdaq and become the CCP for the trades executed on the Nasdaq markets, which was bilateral at the time. So a lot of experience is what we had by traveling to Scandinavian markets and get brokers connected, get banks connected as a clearing member and brokers as a trading member, and ultimately it was quite a success. In 2014, after a lot of years of competition between EMCF and EuroCCP Limited, we decided to merge, and that is where EuroCCP NV, the Dutch entity, is now headquartered in Amsterdam, regulated by the Dutch Central Bank and the AFM, the Authority of Financial Markets, and meanwhile regulated by the College of Regulators and authorized under EMIR. To explain a bit more what a CCP meant, that prior to 2007, whenever there was no competition on clearing, the cost price to clear a particular trade was over 30 cents. Nowadays, the most expensive price to clear the trade is 3 cents, but there's a tiered pricing model whereby it's even going until a cent per trade. So pre-MiFID, incumbent CCPs, national monopolies, all local, driving the prices, no driver for change, no driver for competition. And then post-MiFID, there was more venues being introduced, more competition, prices went down, and we could compete against the US market having a very low trading and clearing cost price for the trading community. So nowadays there's full competition, further cost reductions were achieved, and as you can imagine, between the 30 cents in 2007 and the maybe average 1.5 cent which we charge over clients at the moment, is that we achieved a saving towards the client community over €1 billion over these years. Nowadays we are clearing on average 5 million trades a day, and all of that is what would be beneficial for a new initiative like Scottish Stock Exchange, that the cost price of EuroCCP would be relatively low, and therefore everyone would benefit from this low pricing. So what a CCP is doing is trade compression. We are live at the moment with 8,000 ISIN codes. If clients are trading multiple times a day in one particular ISIN code, an ISIN code is the code of each security, we are compressing those trades into one settlement per client per day. So there's a 99.5% compression. So out of the 200 trades, on average, there will be one settlement into the market, which is reducing the cost price for processing those trades. Nowadays, EuroCCP is owned by 5 shareholders, all having an equal 20% market share. It's ABN AMRO Clearing, historical, being Fortis initially, CBOE Europe, the largest exchange MTF across Europe in all of the pan-European markets. Nasdaq in the Scandinavian markets, DTCC, the infrastructure in the US, owning the CSD and the CCP in the US market, and Euronext since 2016. So this is a supervisory board, all according to EMIR, with independent executive directors, INEDs, and a representative of each shareholder, and there is a management board with the CEO, a CTO and a CRO. And our mission is to be the leading cash equity CCP in Europe, maximizing cost efficiencies for clients. There's a supervisory board, there's a governance structure with risk committees, all of that is an EMIR requirement, and nowadays EuroCCP is clearing 8,000 ISO codes across 34 platforms in 27 locations. Direct clearing members, around 45 and over 150 different trading member firms, and it's easily to adopt more trading member firms via regulations. It all depends on the general clearing member. So general clearing member is appointing many trading members, so it can be extended. And some of these general clearing members have over 50 underlying clients where they're trading on. Another important service factor for direct clearing members is that they offer direct market access, whereby clients would not need to become an on-exchange or a clearing member, an on-exchange member or a clearing member, but they would be trading on behalf of or via the connectivity of the general clearing members or the direct clearing members via a direct DMA model. So the European footprint of EuroCCPs, over the years we let's say that until very recently we are connecting to 34 different platforms, which is where we are live clearing each day the transactions of ISIN codes, products being listed, being settled in 20 different selling locations. So it was quite a long way when we started with only one entity being Chi-X, nowadays called CBOE Europe, after their merge with CBOE and BET. That we have quite some experience in connecting platforms to EuroCCP. And the CSDs is now all direct instead of agent. It used to be as agent, but EuroCCP, the entity only having 60 people, we are connecting as a direct member in all of these local exchanges with a direct membership, direct contracts, direct communication, in order to reduce the inefficiencies and have an SDP process, maximizing cost saving. So that all of those connections were different projects which we had to achieve over the years. And also cash accounts with central banks, leading to central bank money instead of commercial bank money, increasing the risk efficiency and risk mitigation for our clients. From these 34 platforms, we will very soon be announcing a lot of more platform connectivities. Due to Brexit, the UK MTFs and platforms were required to open up European platforms as well. So all of the larger MTFs in the UK, based in London, are currently working on setting up an EU entity with EU ISIN codes to be traded. So there will be a further 4 or 5 MTFs being connected, having separate lines, separate locations, and being part of that list. So we need to reduce the size of the font maybe to put the outlook. Further advances in competitive clearing is anticipated. There is more platforms, more products being required to get to be onboarded in the CCP. EuroCCP is currently only a cash equity CCP, but there is a demand to introduce more products. There's further regulation and politics will force change. Well, capital rules, Brexit, which are, and the capital rules are promoting clearing. CCP is good, bilateral is bad. Basically, one of the items which the regulators would like to force people to move more flow into the CCPs to create the right stability and efficiency in stressful situations and in crises. Potential for technology disruption, blockchain, DLT, all those types of new ways of processing are being looked at and being discussed. Ongoing regulatory changes, there's a lot of demand on standardization and harmonization. The 19 local changes, local CSDs have their own rules around processing corporate actions and taxes. All of that is what we need to support on getting these harmonized and standardized. CSDR, a regulation to increase settlement discipline, polluter pays for inefficiency in failing settlements. So not being allowed to trade short, not being allowed to, and the CCP should monitor that and report that accordingly. Recovery and resolution, which is a new regulatory demand to create further safety on crisis scenarios, and cyber security. Well, a lot of emphasis on that lately to create stability, and as a CCP we are a systemically important infrastructure, and that means that we need to join many local initiatives around cyber security as well as international initiatives. So that means that we had to create cyber security officers and juniors and seniors, and increase our headcount on that, but it's all for the good of the stability. And finally, it's a trusted market infrastructure for cash equities. That's what we would like to give you as our message. We are building on core strengths and capabilities. It's client demand driven, and what we offer is stability, efficiency, standardization of processes. The way, it was already mentioned earlier, Euronext Dublin. It's an initiative which only went live on the 4th of February after quite some time of processing, testing, and getting the community ready to go live. Previously it was called Irish Stock Exchange, being processed by the Deutsche Börse Group from a trading point of view and the Deutsche Börse Group from a clearing point of view. That's a local vertical silo monopoly. There's quite some demand to reduce the cost price of that process. So what we can say is after 4 weeks of processing the Euronext Dublin process, trading volume increased with 40% and cost price was split in half. So quite some positive advantages in what we created together with Euronext for the Irish community trading the securities. And that's of course our goal as well for the initiative with the Stock Exchange to achieve the same and support you and jointly support you in a low cost price and a very good process from an efficiency point of view. I think this is a bit more about what a CCP would be doing and especially what we can do for you. So many thanks for being here and enjoying your event.